Hey people, this is Age of Wonders 1 review, 800 by 600 edition by the channel SsethTzeentach. This game is from 1999. Yes, so Seth excels when he reviews the old style games, right? Because all the best games of him I remember is basically, old style type of games. Dwarf Fortress and games like that. So, Factorio, Dwarf Fortress. So, obviously I have never even thought about watching, let alone playing games like that, because I never really understood. I mean, I always assumed that these are old games with old technology, and so that's why they kind of suck. But Seth has opened my eyes on that, like how great a game can be, even if it looks like that, right? Especially in the, I guess modern-ish time, in last decade or something, or last 2 decades or something, whenever games like that comes out, it has lots of features that a normal 3D game can't have, right? Because it just becomes more complicated. So I don't know, is this going to be that type of game, or it's just, it's from 1999. There were many 3D big games then, so I don't know which game is going to be, right? Yeah, but it's going to be fun because it's a Seth video. I already quite a few Seth, reactions already. If you haven't seen them, check out the link in the description. You'll find them there. And yeah, let's watch it.
Hey people, Seth here. Today, I'll be covering a game that's very dear to me, and also about as old as some of the audience. Age of Wonders, released 1999 by Triumph Studios. The same guys who made Overlord is a turn-based fantasy strategy game, which still holds up today because it's completely insane. Also, I apologize, but it appears my graphics have glitched. Does anyone know how to fix this? It's actually meant to look like this, but let's make the most of it. Age of Wonders is a game where forced immigration, slavery, and wide-scale racial genocide can be patched up and smoothed over in a few turns, where you can flood the entire map by casting the appropriately named spell, which is called Flood, drowning anyone who can't swim, where one wizard can spot another wizard, summon a 2x2 hex of mountains, and trap them inside forever, where instead of actually playing, I channel several death storms in a row, and instead of actually fighting the enemy leader, I can nuke them and the entire landscape from a safe distance, where due to strained diplomatic relations with the halflings, one of my leprechauns went rogue. As leprechauns are invisible, the only way I have of detecting him is watching my buildings explode. This is a game where the phrase "recruit the hose" is an entirely valid and effective strategy. Also, I'm not sure if I have to censor this because I don't know exactly what I'm looking at.
Seriously?
Could it be a nipple? Maybe. But where exactly do we draw the line for what's erogenous, obscene, or otherwise? Imagine, for example, you're under police interrogation and they show you a 4-pixel image and ask you, "What do you think about that, huh?" And naturally, you respond with, I guess it's all right. Oh yeah? Well, they zoom out the image, and it's a still frame picture of one man, naked, about to descend his entire weight upon an empty glass jar. You're a real sick puppy, you know that? And just like that, you become a deviant to society. You're locked up forever in fetish jail. Most don't even last the winter before getting vored by pyro. Anyway, I forgot the point I was trying to make. Let's proceed. Age of Wonders is fascinating because despite being turn-based, it is a game that stresses me greatly. That's because it can be played in one of 2 modes. Turn-based.
I like how he basically saw a pixelated game and just just sat there with his thoughts like, how should I express this? Like, do I even have to censor this, and just went with this whole thought and that's just happened. But all the Let's Plays that happen in YouTube, what do they do, right? Does pixelated thing becomes an issue? Because I'm pretty sure that one of the ways to, I guess, edit your YouTube video from YouTube, if you don't want to issue is kind of blurring, which can be like somewhat like pixelated, because that blur doesn't completely block out the scene, it just blurs it. So that means YouTube acknowledges that if it's not clear, it's not going to be issue. So I guess pixelated games cannot be issue, doesn't matter what it is.
Or simultaneous. Simultaneous turns is objectively the best and most hilarious way to play the game because it completely destroys the sequence of turns, lets everyone make a move at the same time, and leaves you to figure out how the hell that even works. You could play a number of pre-made maps and download even more online, but primarily, we learn to play by playing the story campaign. Speaking of which, story. In Age of Wonders, once upon a time, everyone lived in general harmony under the Elvish court, ruled by King Inioch. Then, the humans came and slaughtered Inioch and his entire court. Naturally, this event led the elves to some very interesting political places, as you may consider this the twin watchtowers event of Elvish history, with one group, the Keepers, maintaining that the humans are relatively young and stupid, that we shouldn't hold a grudge over it, and instead seek greater understanding despite this early atrocity. The Cult of Storms, however, can be accurately summarized as race war now, kill every human that ever lived. These are probably the same edgelords sitting on Elvish discords making little Dark Age edits all day. The only numbers they know are human on elf crime statistics, and their favorite topic of conversation is how much better life was before they came to the Valley of Wonders. These elves are beyond basement dwellers. They straight up live underground. Completely relatable. I know that if I was ever invaded, I would tunnel deep into the Earth's crust.
Again, with the Tolkien's, right? This is the Tolkien's Lord of the Ring. Elves are old. They are kind of, they preserve the nature. They're nature-loving people. Humans are just chaotic, just destroys everything. They're young. Basically Tolkien's, right? That's what it comes from. People are always like, Tolkien's culture is so strong. Everybody's just kind of, just a fan of that. But I think it's mostly because lots of other things like these games, movies, has kind of implemented Tolkien's at their core. So it just becomes more and more after that. That's why people are so deep in Tolkien's lore. Because it's not just one thing. Every other culture followed it after that.
And live inside my goon cave for the next 100 years. And that leads us to your pivotal choice. Serve, the equivalent of the Elvish United Nations, or team up with a bunch of psychopaths that are just as likely to kill you as they are any human. Daddy Meandor is going to make Elf Hyperborea real, and you don't want to miss it. Regardless of what you choose, you get to make a custom leader with a selection of skills and abilities. You'll notice you have a lot of options. Also, you get to pick your spheres of magic. You pick 3 at the start, but eventually a total of 7 from the following elements: fire, water, air, earth, life, and death. Choosing one blocks you from selecting the opposite, so you really have to make your choices count. However, you have absolutely no idea what those choices are, so just pick whatever. Everything is good. Ultimately, no matter what you're playing and who you're playing against, the objective is always the same. It's a grand scale game of VIP. Your leader is very powerful, but not invincible. And the same goes for your enemies. Your goal is not to win the map, it's to run up on a thug and return his body to the streets. In combat, you can make a beeline for the leader, shank him, and that ends the entire fight. Everyone reverts to neutral as his entire faction ceases to exist. This creates a constant sense of high tension because your leader is the most tactical unit on the board. Basically, the game incentivizes you to put your leader's neck on the line at all times. The closer you are to getting assassinated, the more likely you are to win. Because the more fights you survive, the more experience you acquire, and the more skill points you have to spend on becoming theoretically invincible. I've run campaigns where my leader can slaughter entire armies, nuke entire armies, or forcibly mind control entire armies completely on his own. But that takes time. Before that, you'll have to rely on your troops. This game comes with 12 different races. They interact.
Ooh, I love that. So in this game, basically, if your leader dies, your whole faction dies, basically. That's the case with every other, NPC factions as well, I guess. But at the same time, they're also powerful. So over time, you just, because of XPs and skills you get, your leaders are powerful. So you want to use them in the field. But if your leader dies, your whole faction is screwed, right? But at the same time, if you're trying to fight at battle an enemy, you just have to find the main guy and just try to kill him. That creates a really good element all around. And at the start of the game, like how you said, you can do many things like bomb places, right? Use magic to trap places in the mountains. So there is basically so many things you can do with it.
Diplomatically with each other, with you and the rest of the map, and you can freely influence that in any direction. For example, playing Cult of Storms on the United Cities map, I'm supposed to occupy the halfling capital, but instead of fighting, I sneak up on my orc ally, declare war, and brutally murder him on the same turn. And just like that, my diplomatic standing with the halflings skyrockets. So I take their cities without lifting a finger. They're so happy with me getting rid of an enemy, they'll quietly brush aside the fact that they are now actively involved in scorched earth tactics against their former allies. This game taught me that any amount of xenophobia and racial hatred can be overcome by building walls. I guess it makes sense. They don't have to see me, and I don't have to see them. Sometimes you capture cities with races that don't like you, and if you hold on to them, they're going to rebel. That's fine, because we can evict them. Look, you're free to hold a negative opinion. Just please do it in the woods. Whatever race you choose to resettle is going to dislike this move, but whichever race you choose to move in is going to like you even more. And basically, the people who are moving out already hate my guts, so you're not losing anything.
Alright, the game White Gold was Zenith 2 White Gold, right? Yeah, Zenith 2 White Gold. I guess that was the first game that I played had this kind of a relationship meter. Yeah, it had, right? So if you're good with one faction, other faction is gonna hate you and vice versa, and there were multiple factions that is paired together like that. If I remember, there were like 8 or so faction, but it's like a 4 because everybody was rival. So if you win against one, other is gonna hate you. That's the first, and in that way. So I remember playing that and I fucking loved that system, right? Because that was the first time. It's not like GTA, basically do whatever the fuck you want, progress the story, whatever, right? So obviously at that time GTA, like Vice City San Andreas. So that's the first game I played that was kind of like GTA, because you can obviously the graphics and everything sucked because game was kind of like not development money wasn't much there. I guess it was AA or something, I don't know, indie game type of thing. But the game was so good. Like it was based on islands, right? The game was massive. You can use boats or something. It feels like Just Causes sometimes, right? Even some mission feels kind of similar. And it was like more like GTA type of thing. You can have cars and whatever. And now there are factions. They have to worry about your decision, what mission you do, you rob somebody or not. That was such a fun game. So whenever something like this exists, Stalker 2 I think had this, not Stalker 2. Stalker's second and third installment also had the faction thing. I don't remember if the first had it or not. But whenever a game has this kind of a thing, it makes it alive, basically, right? It's fun to play. It's not like it's a sandbox and just do whatever the fuck you want to do, collect trophies and shit. No, it's a breathing world. You have to make sure who you piss off, who you don't. It kind of matters overall.
It's free real estate. Conversely, to illustrate the importance of diplomacy, I can click on this little button 3 times and I'll lose the game. Yes, at the click of a button, you can explode any structure you own, including cities filled with women and children. Naturally, razing a city to the ground is a universally unpopular move. Turn enough towns into mass graves, and all your troops will
no longer sharing your cause. These desert you, the leader of the party says for
disband and leave you. It's important to understand that each race isn't following you specifically. They're just serving their mutual interest, and when that disappears, so does their loyalty. That doesn't mean war crimes are bad. It just means
diplomacy,
you should do it to someone else. Each time a structure explodes, it spawns neutral units. If you mouse over them, you can see their behavior. If it says raiding, oh boy, that entire region is about to become a whole lot more interesting. You see, raiders also burn shit down, in turn spawning more raiders, creating a feedback loop of wartime atrocity. Razing structures to the ground is not only incredibly fun, it's also a one-way process to accidentally wiping out the entire map.
I just spend over 40 hours nitpicking and creating this perfect world, but it's now time to bring chaos. This is so fucking awesome. I wonder, why are they raiding? I just blew up the fucking town. Kill everybody inside of them. Why are they pissed off? Why are they burning everything else that I own?
Rebuild structures using a builder's guild. But guess what? This can also be razed to the ground, meaning there's no way back. So yes, technically this is still a fantasy game. But if you want to...
Oi! We just built that fucking town for you. Why are you destroying it? Why do you care? It's more job for you. Build it again.
More fitting title, it's Harry Potter and the Yugoslavic War Tribunal. Now, I've been thinking of branching out into the financial sector and opening up a sperm bank. But to do that, I need a lot of money. Advertiser money. Hey, let me tell you something. Me and my friends, we like to get very drunk and go on little tangents exploring the web. Well, after one night of this, I woke up to find my Amazon recommending me a statue of Baphomet, some effigy sticks to burn as offerings, and am I allowed to say this? A crack pipe. Everything you need to do a little magic. Now, that's pretty funny, until I realized, wait a minute, I'm getting recommendations for something I browsed on a completely different account on a completely different computer, which means they already tracked, logged, and sold my data, and they know who I am. You might say, who cares? They'll market to me, so what? So, your data is going to be resold to data brokers, and anyone can buy it, including the government. Or should I say, bought, because Homeland Security and the IRS already have. The precise live geolocation of 1 in 4 Americans watching this is already in the hands of people who surely have your best interests in mind. Hey, have you ever been audited by the tax man? Let me tell you, it's a lot of fun, because the first thing they did is freeze my account. If not for friends and family, I could not buy food or pay the rent. And you know what they needed to do all of this? Suspicion. Do not give these people an inch, because they'll take your leg off. No one should have a right to record or track your actions online. In fact, they don't. That's the whole reason they use data brokers. Surveillance without a warrant is a breach of the 4th Amendment. But we didn't do it. We just contract someone to do it for us. I care for my privacy, but clearly the feds don't take no for an answer, which is why I use ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN reroutes my internet connection through a secure encrypted server. So it's...
Okay, seriously, there was a thing in China where they put cameras everywhere, give everybody scores and whatever, and the outrage was because of the scores. Like, why is there a fucking score system? Okay, but outrage was also because people were monitoring everyone every time at every place. That was the fear there. Like, you know, cameras are literally everywhere, you can track anyone anytime. There was also the part of fear. So that works in physical world, and people are pissed off about it. You know, most people are pissed off about it. But at the same times, and when I mean people, I mean governments, right? Lots of Western governments were saying like how this is bad. Obviously, people are pissed off, but government were pissed off too, like, oh, this is unethical, this and that. But at the same time, in the internet, digital world, which is an actual world, you also live in digital world as the same way you live in the real world. It's okay to track and buy everybody's data, you know, just track everybody all the time, right? So how can you have view about one thing in physical world and have the different view, opposite view in the digital world? And especially when digital world is kind of becoming like a part of you nowadays, right? Everybody's on internet constantly for one reason or another. Now everybody buys things on internet. Everybody's on the social media constantly, right? They can track where you are. They can track, you know, which accounts you own, even though you don't want those accounts to be linked. Like he said, I've never faced a thing, something like that, where, you know, Google can know that my one account and the other account that are not linked are somehow from the same person, and Amazon also tracks that and recommends me something. I don't think that has ever happened to me, but it doesn't surprise me. So that's kind of fucked up, right? And people say like, so what is this recommendation? Like, but that's not the point. The principle is the point, right? I mean, right now this is this. In future, it could cause even more problems, right? I don't know.
It's much more difficult for data brokers to identify or log my activities online. ExpressVPN has a no logs policy by the fact that their VPN servers run off RAM, meaning that even if you wanted to, no information is actually stored. But if you're not fully convinced, I actually have the best endorsement possible.
Is he a meme now?
Works in police investigation. He told me himself he knows ExpressVPN is legit because he has repeatedly sent them a court order information request, to which they must legally comply each time they showed their records. And unfortunately for them, but fortunately for you, each time they showed nothing. So stop letting anyone and everyone track, monitor, and log everything you do online, because whatever unspeakable things you do, that's between you and your God and no one else. And if you'd like to keep it that way, get ExpressVPN today. It's incredibly easy to use. All you gotta do is download the app, tap a single button, and just like that, you're a ghost in the machine. And ExpressVPN does all this without slowing my connection. Sign up now and you get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by visiting expressvpn.com/Seth or clicking the link in the description box below. Thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Aside from diplomacy, the likelihood of units working together is dependent on their alignment. This can be anything from good.
Your life is everything. You serve all purpose. You should treat yourself now.
To neutral.
Your life literally is as valuable as a summer ant.
To pure evil.
What I need you to do is I need you to take a nearest rope that you got, wrap it around if you got a garage or a fucking stairway, and hang yourself, nigga. Period. Why are you alive?
What the fuck was
Do
that?
the world a favor and hang yourself.
I don't know, but
What the
I think
fuck was
this
that?
depends on the alignment of your leader's race and how well that meshes with that specific creature. If you're a neutral race, you might be able to pull both sides of a spectrum, but the more polarized you are to one direction, the less likely it is that you'll convince and work with someone from the opposite end of a spectrum. Every race is structured by
Okay, before you say that I don't know if he's a meme now, but he's a singer. He's a Bollywood type of singer, but it's like an old singer. Like this is like decades old songs and whatever, right? He was famous at the time, right? So it's not a now thing. So this just makes me think like how old things can be really funny today.
four
I hope
common
it
tech
becomes a meme,
levels.
right?
Level 1 is your basic melee and ranged unit. Level 2 gives you siege weapons, clerics, and cavalry. Level 3 gives you specialist units, and level 4 gives you your ultimate unit. The maximum tech level depends on the size of a city. And basically, if you want dragons, you need a 4-tile city. Now, I'm going to cover every race one by one because I can. Most maps come in layers: overland, caverns, and sometimes even deep caverns. Goblins pretty much own the underground because not only do they move fast and see well, they have giant beetles that can eat terrain. There's no front line against goblins because they'll just tunnel around you. Also, they have my favorite unit. Here's a montage to explain what they do.
Oh ho ho ho!
Goblin bombers, believe it or not, explode, taking about half a screen with them. Conversely, dwarves live underground, but also they're the only race that can cross mountains. The borders made by natural geography don't matter because dwarves can just hop over. They have access to the best tier 3 unit in the game, the Giant, which on its own can win you the entire campaign. Orcs have the best melee fighters in the game, and they get a dragon. The elves counter that by mass-producing megathoughts. This is not a joke. A nymph can seduce a tier 3 orc warlord and keep him in her cohort of simps for the rest of the game. When I was younger, the artwork and sprite of a nymph stirred feelings inside me. It made me act up, as they say, like a quirked up white boy busting it down sexual. No, but in all seriousness, from the tender age of 9 and seeing the various booba in this game, namely the nymph, the spider queen, the nature elemental, and the mermaid, I knew that being gay is going to be an uphill battle. And to this day, I'm still losing. Dark elves are just edgelord elves, except their version of a nymph is gonna step on your balls. They have the most fucked up tier 4 unit in the game, the Incarnate, which, to put it nicely, kills you and wears your skin until it's killed, at which point it jumps out to possess someone else. Yeah, this shit gave me nightmares as a child. Lizard men are just as comfortable in water as they are on land. They get turtle artillery and a basilisk. Their mortal enemy is the frostlings, which freeze everything they touch. They don't need to swim because frost queens can just turn water into ice. They have dire penguins and aggressive LED lights. If you see a
Alright, so lots of things I can see from the Tolkien's, basically Lord of the Ring, kind of inspired by them, especially elves, right? Elves being these sexy creatures is kind of, comes from the Lord of the Rings, right? How they're portrayed there somehow. And I like how orcs are like already a muscles, right? They can, fuck you up with melee, but they also get a dragon because why the fuck not? There you go. How is that not an overpowering thing? But then again, how powerful dragons are in this game? I mean, I don't know. And those bombers, basically, right? What was the game? Command and Conquer, Kane's Wrath or something that I saw from Briggy recently. They also had this kind of, that RTS game, they also had this kind of similar element. They just explode. I don't know why. I don't know how much damage that does, but that just feels a bit OP in itself, right? Because you don't have to worry about sacrificing your, unit or whatever, because they'll do it for you, basically. That's the damage.
horde of frostlings marching across the ocean towards you, the appropriate response is to cast Firestorm and melt the ice underneath them as they all drown to death. I love this game. Humans are humans. As vanilla as they sound, they're actually really strong. They have gunpowder.
I could kill you somehow, we just do something, but I'm pretty sure throwing fire at you is the best thing, because ice melts and you just, I don't know why they're satisfied, right? Oh, look at that, you think you're gonna walk on water, you smug, this just dropped it down in the water.
Knights, and the oldest human tradition of all, scamming the absolute shit out of you. Their ultimate unit is a skyship transport, which leaves the entire map open to wide-scale human enrichment. Azrics are desert humans. They're exactly the same, except they also have beholders, genies, sandworms from Dune, and an avatar of Vishnu that can mind break entire armies. So, besides absolutely everything, they're pretty much the same. Halflings exist to be picked up and tossed down a deep well. Undead are immune or resistant to most forms of damage and can regenerate in a single turn. They also have access to Wraiths, one of 3 units in the entire game with physical immunity. If you think that sounds a little busted, that's because it is. Unless he gets smacked by a priest or exorcised, that Wraith is going to decimate the whole map. Oh, and they also have a Grim Reaper. He can insta-kill you on touch. But really, the worst thing about him is that he's going to ruin all your crops. The manifestation of death is outside our door, and he's fucking up our corn. The Hymen, or as they're known in the German copy, the Übermensch, exist to destroy the forces of darkness. Appropriately, every second unit in their lineup can either turn the undead or deal holy damage. I don't have much to say about them, except seeing a Titan get jumped by a full stack, only to kill them on the same turn, is some of the funniest shit I've ever seen. Yeah. Now, let's talk about magic. I recently found that air magic is busted. At shipyards, you can make ships, the largest of which, the Galleon, is stronger than any ultimate unit in the game. Now, normally, that's alright because they're bound to the sea, so I enchant them to fly instead. And I cast Air Mastery, which doubles the speed of anything that sails or flies in the air. My newly created battle cruisers do both, and can now sweep the entire map in a matter of turns.
How is that not game breaking?
To one thing, being killed, which is why I take free spheres in water and cast liquid form. The AI doesn't know how to dispel magic, so yeah, the game is pretty much over. The other spheres get similar bullshit. Water is just a matter of waiting for everyone to drown. Fire can turn the map into downtown Detroit, and life can invoke the power of live, laugh, love to make foreign occupation seem like a pleasant experience. Death, on the other hand, lets you cast Pestilence, which, because of how they're programmed, breaks the computer AI. Instead of stepping out of a Pestilence cloud and potentially taking less damage, the enemy will conclude that the most logical move to make is none at all, and will sit inside the Brap cloud until they asphyxiate. And Earth Magic.
So AI kind of sucks in this game. That's basically what it is, right? I mean, this game is from 1999. You can't really blame for that. But doesn't that, it's like game breaking, right? Because like you said, the flying boat, that's like end of things, right? It's really powerful in itself. The pestilence thing, you poison somebody, they'll just stay there until they die, kind of also game breaking. How they didn't patch that one, like how hard is to put a script command. Okay, patch, I guess it's 1999, patch what? Right? There wasn't like, internet was the main thing. People can just buy, download patches. Once you release a game, you release a game. But still, even today, isn't that like somebody can patch it like a fan or something, mod type of thing, where AI actually acts on something like poison or active effect? If there's an active effect of you, get the fuck out. I mean, somebody could mod it, I don't know.
Magic is basically just talk shit, get buried alive. It's actually really soothing to admire the enemy leader safely inside his downy containment chamber. As you have no doubt guessed or gleamed from this video, there's many ways to break this game, and I only know some of them. My recent favorite is starting with Lightning Strike, which makes fights increasingly stupid as you watch multiple enemies run up to your leader, take a swing, miss, and get stun locked into oblivion. Also, I learned that unlike Seduce or Charm, which only work if a target has testicles, Dominate actually works on anything. And if you get lucky and roll a Ring of Flight, this includes dragons as well. By the way, I don't know what to think of this, but I learned how this works mechanically. I found out that men in this game are categorized as humanoid, whereas women fall under the category of creature. Regardless which side you follow, the campaign is pretty long. There's branching paths, a lot of lore, and generally is just a fun experience. Spoilers ahead, so if you don't want spoilers to
So basically, this game was thought of in 1940s, but was released in 1999.
23-year-old game, skip forward to this timestamp. Alright, actually I don't have any spoilers. I just wanted those people gone so we can have a quiet moment. Anyway, give it a few seconds, so they think I'm actually saying something valuable. Anyway, remember Elf Hyperborea? Yeah, that kind of went wrong. Meandor tries to revive King Inioch, and it works. A little too well. The star shining over the Valley of Wonders is blood red. Inioch is now an undead lich, leading the forces of death. Positives, destruction of humanity. Negatives, he's going to kill us all in the process. All in all, a mixed bag. So we should probably do something about it. At some point, you can escape with your people to safety, or choose to stand and fight with the arrival of a Hyman, whose name sounds very strange if you say it too quickly. If you're playing the cult, your options are like, I could join the undead, but they're probably, maybe, definitely gonna kill me. Yeah, I'm going Team Hyman. Then you win the campaign and it's like, maybe the real Cult of Storms was all the friends we made along the way. I'm a wanted war criminal. If you play keepers and choose to stay, you and the Hyman essentially put Eniok back in the ground. Your reward for all this is a lifetime of loneliness as the last of your race has sailed across the sea, never to be seen again. It's a bittersweet ending, and I like it very much. You know the fable of the fox and the sour grapes? Yeah, I want to eat them because they're sour. To this day, the game looks amazing.
You know when you're kids and your parents and everybody just goes out for something and you're alone in home and just like, holy shit, my home to myself, and you just jump onto your couch and basically, oh, look at that. I want to see a movie or something that shows that, right? Like some scene happens but it's a bittersweet victory because everyone you know of, your whole people, whatever country or whatever, they all left and you're the alone there, and it's just like, oh, this is sweet, just going to everybody's houses like, this is all mine now.
I'm running it 800 by 600 stretched to a 1080p monitor. The possibility that this knowledge is making someone very upset right now makes it all the more enjoyable. The sprite work, beautiful.
Alright, 800 by 600, I can remember that resolution, the CRT monitors. Obviously when I was in single digit age, I remember playing games like NFS 2, Hot Pursuit, or first Hot Pursuit, right? IGI and games like that, right? This 800 by 600 felt like, oh, this is a high resolution for that time. Like, you don't even get to this resolution. I remember that kind of.
Dragon that follows your cursor in the UI. Beautiful. I love this game. What more can I say? The soundtrack is so good I've listened to it at least 100 times back to back for the last 2 decades. And the sound effects. The sound effects are completely scuffed. Full disclosure, I think they used royalty-free stock sound effects for most of the combat, and I love it. I don't need to explain why Beholder sounds like a golden retriever. It's a feature. Critique. If you alt-tab the game on Windows 10, it's gonna turn into inverted neon purple puke. I've kind of learned how to navigate this stereoscopic hell, if only because I believe it's some kind of portal into the lean dimension. Jokes aside, if this happens to your game, it's fucked. Just close and restart. Also, if you get...
Yeah, that's kind of like a big deal for me. I do a lot of my work while, games like this basically plays in the background. So I can imagine this game being a long game, where you take your time doing things. I can imagine playing a bit, then minimizing doing my work, and then playing again. So that would be a deal breaker if that happens all the time. I know people say I'll just play it in window, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I'll like that or not. I usually alt tab, right?
Get frequent crashing with a pop-up that says like map view or show scene. There's a patch you can run to fix it. I'll link that in the description below. Finally, we have a sale on GOG for Age of Wonders 1, 2, and free. I couldn't get the expansions for free because they're really expensive, but I did manage to secure the expansion for Age of Wonders 2. They will be available for very little money. I personally endorse every single one of them because they're great games, and I will review them when someone pays me a lot of money. Offer code FUGHUNTER goes in all fields. Enjoy. As always, more content to come, so stay tuned. A warm thanks to the many members of the Merchants Guild generously funding and bankrolling these videos, except recently because I've realized I can milk VPN sponsors instead. You're all truly wonderful. Have a good one.
There we go. Alright. First of all, I know Seth has an effect. Like, I'm pretty sure the sales on GOG, whatever, it's probably gonna go up a lot after this. And knowing how this is trending so fast, yeah, that's definitely gonna happen. But how does he get hold of the developers and just says like, your old 13-year-old game, yeah, I want you to give me discount for that because I want to promote that. I'm making a review out of it. And they're like, all right. Basically, they're like, oh, I know you're gonna make it. Even though this is an old game, I know I'm gonna have sales because you're the one who's making the video. So that's something. Alright, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. Check out those Seth reactions I did. There's a link in the description. Any other reaction that I did, there's a link in the description, I guess. And yeah, I'll see you next time.